in the unseen, things which we haven't seen, things which are invisible to us, then these God-fearing people, they believe in it without asking for any evidence, without asking for any proof. This is one quality of these God-fearing people. For example, the existence of angels, the existence of Jannah, paradise, and Jahannam, and the fire of hell. We haven't seen it with our eyes. We don't know whether there are angels. We don't know whether there is life after death, and we'll be questioned regarding our deeds, and then we will either enter Jannah, we will either enter paradise, or we will either enter hell. We don't know that. But because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has informed us, and because it is mentioned in many verses of the Holy Quran, because of that and because of these reasons, we verify what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, and we believe in that. That is called Iman bil Ghaib. That is called, or that is known as belief in the unseen. So that is one quality with regards to God-fearing people. And then the fiqhi issue, which was deduced from Iman, the definition of Iman, the prerequisites or the essentials of Iman, and then after that the difference between Iman and Islam, the difference between Mu'min and Muslim, was looked at in detail last week. Then we went on to look at the second quality of the God-fearing people, and that is وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ, that they establish salah and they establish namaz. Again, the literal meaning, the tafseer, the commentary was looked at last week. However, the fiqhi issue, the jurisprudence issue which was deduced from that particular fragment or that particular phrase, was looked at last week as well. And what is the fiqhi issue which can be established from the word وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ? It is about namaz. The importance of namaz, the importance of salah, the importance of namaz, what does namaz mean, what does salah mean to a Muslim. Now, I mentioned last week that it is going to be difficult for me to look at every single aspect, every single masla of namaz in this particular dars or in this particular lesson. Okay, we can't, because obviously namaz is such a broad topic. Many books have been written on namaz, and obviously for me to look at every single aspect of namaz, the prerequisites of namaz, the essentials of namaz, things which are wajib, things which are sunnah, it will take a lot of time. So what I said last week was that in the lesson or in the dars, I'll take this opportunity to look at some important contemporary issues of namaz or of salah, which is not covered or which you may not find in books such as Talimul Haq or books such as Behshti Zawar written by Mona Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah, just the main issues. And one of the main issues of namaz, which we looked at last week, was with regards to when does Fajr and Isha start in extreme latitude. Countries which are above 50 degrees latitude, such as England, such as northern Canada, Scandinavian countries such as Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, other countries like Greenland and so on. How would you determine, or when will Isha namaz start in those countries? When or how or what time would you read your Fajr namaz in those countries? So that was the issue, or that was a very important masla which we started last week. And for the benefit of those brothers who weren't here last week, just very briefly, I mentioned that in the winter, when Maghrib namaz or when the sun sets, you read your Maghrib namaz. Then 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20 minutes later, when you are reading your namaz, then you'll see in the sky that there is a red illumination. And 1 hour 15 or 1 hour 20 minutes later, what happens is that the red illumination disappears and a whiteness appears. Now, when that red illumination disappears, then according to the teachings of Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayh and Imam Muhammad rahmatullah alayh, that's when your Isha time starts. Okay, which is known as Shafaq Ahmad, that's when your Isha time starts. 15-20 minutes later, you've got this white illumination in the sky. When that disappears, then and it becomes pitch black, then according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, that's when your Isha time starts. So for example, in Maghrib time, you've got this red illumination. That disappears, then according to Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Muhammad, they say that your Isha time starts. 15-20 minutes later, when the white illumination, which comes straight away after the red illumination, when that disappears, then that's when and when it becomes pitch black, then that's when your Isha time starts. That is the teaching, or that is the view of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh. Now the problem or the dilemma is that countries which are above 50 degrees latitude, this white illumination doesn't disappear. So the question is that when would you read your Isha namaz? Now this problem occurs during the summer months, as I mentioned last week, and this problem occurs for 2.5 months, from the 16th of May until the 29th of July. You have this problem where if you, after Maghrib namaz, like Maghrib will be quite late, like 9:30, 9:40 and so on. After Maghrib namaz, you'll see this redness. Then 1 hour later, you'll see a white illumination or this whitish color in the sky. Now what happens is that whitish color will remain all the way until Fajr. It doesn't disappear. Okay, and I mentioned last week that if you were to look outside your bedroom window, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll see that the night is still whitish, like meaning that it's not pitch black. It's not like normal nights during the winter where if you were to look outside your window at 10 o'clock in the evening, 11 o'clock in the evening, it's pitch black, you can't see anything. But in the summer, if you were to look outside your window around 12 p.m., 12 midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning, you'll see this whitish color. So the question is that a Hanafi, a person who's following the Hanafi school of thought, when will he read his Isha namaz? Because obviously, according to the teachings of Imam Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, it is that after the whiteness disappears, then you start your Isha namaz. But if the whiteness is not disappearing, it is going to be there all the way until Fajr, so when would you read your Isha namaz? Okay, so that was the question, or that was the issue which we began last week, and I mentioned that there's two views. One view is that during those 2.5 months, you'll act upon the view of Sahibain, i.e. the view of Imam Yusuf rahmatullah alayh and Imam Muhammad rahmatullah alayh. And that is that after 1 hour, after Maghrib, then you will read your Isha namaz. So the latest Maghrib is during the summer months, like in June and so on, it's 9:40. So at 10:40, you will read your Isha namaz, or Isha namaz will start at 10:40. So that is one view. And the second view I mentioned was that you split the night into 7 parts. Like the time from sunset all the way until sunrise, you split that into 7 parts, and after the first 7th part, you will read your Isha namaz. After the first 7th part, you will read your Isha namaz. So that is the second ruling, or the second masla. Now the next masla we're going to look at is with regards to Fajr namaz. We've determined when to read your Isha namaz during those 2.5 months. The next question is that when would you read your Isha namaz? When will you read your Fajr namaz? Now with regards to Fajr namaz, there's 4 views. Okay, there are 4 opinions, and you can act upon whichever opinion is easy or which is compatible with you. Now the first opinion with regards to Fajr namaz is that during those 2.5 months, you'll act upon the time Fajr namaz was on the 15th of May. You will use that time for the next 2.5 months, and that time will be used to establish or determine the beginning of Fajr namaz. Now as I mentioned, that this particular issue or problem happens from 16th of May until the 29th of July. That's when you don't have an Islamic nightfall, meaning that after Maghrib, this white illumination stays all the way until Fajr. So the scholars have said that on the 15th of May, where there was an Islamic nightfall, where there was Shar'i Layl, whatever time the beginning of Fajr was, that time will be there on the calendar, on the mosque timetable for the next 2.5 months. So just say, for example, if the beginning of Fajr was 3 a.m. or 3:17 a.m. On the 15th of May, then that time will be there all the way until the 29th of July. So from 3:17 a.m., from 3:15 a.m., you will read your Fajr namaz all the way until the 29th of July. And then from the 30th of July, when you revert back to that Islamic nightfall, then obviously we will follow according to the illumination of the sky. So that is one view. The second view with regards to the beginning of Fajr in Arabic is called nisful layl. Now what is meant by nisful layl? It means that the time from sunset to sunrise, split that into half. And from the beginning of the second half, that's when your Fajr namaz will start. So just as an example, a very simple example will be that 10 p.m. in the evening is sunset. That just say the sun sets at 10 p.m. in the evening. And 5 a.m. in the morning is sunrise. So you've got 7 hours there. Half of that, i.e. 3.5 hours, so from 10 p.m., if you add 3.5 hours, it will be 1:30 a.m. So after 1:30 a.m., you will read your Fajr namaz. And this is a view which many people during the summer months act upon, that at 1:15 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. they will read the Fajr namaz and then they will go to sleep. So that is something which is allowed. Just during the summer months, from the 16th of May until the 29th of July, to act upon this particular view, then that will be permissible. So the way you work it out is that the time from sunset to sunrise, split that into half, and from the second half, that's when you will read your Fajr namaz. The third view, with regards to the beginning of Fajr namaz, is something which is called Aqrabul Bilad, i.e. the nearest country. Now what does that mean? It means that a country which is below 50 degrees latitude, we will act upon their timetable, or we will act upon their kind of timetable, or according to their the country they're living in. When Fajr time starts, we will act upon their view and their opinion. So just for example, southern France, like the Marseille area and so on, so that is somewhere which is, that is a country, or that is a part of France which is below 50 degrees latitude. So just say in Marseille, they are reading Fajr namaz on the 16th of May at 3 a.m. in the morning. Then on the 17th of May, it's at 2:58 in the morning. The 19th of May, the 18th of May, it's at 2:56 a.m. in the morning. So the next 2.5 months, we will follow their timetable, or we will follow their kind of opinions, like according to that country, when the Fajr time is beginning, we will act upon that in England. So that is the third view with regards to Aqrabul Bilad. And the fourth opinion with regards to when will Fajr time start in that situation, and that is something which is known as, or called Sub'ul Layl. Sub'ul Layl, similar to what we looked at last week, you split the night into 7 parts, from sunset to sunrise. You split it up into 7 parts, and in the last 7th part, you will read your Fajr namaz. So in the last 7th part, you will read a Fajr namaz, so that is called Sub'ul Layl. So that is like the conclusion of, with regards to reading Fajr and Isha time in England or in extreme latitude. Now the
strongest opinion out of these 4.
Strongest one.
Yeah.
You could act upon whichever one.
Okay. And they're all like Hanafi.
Yeah, they're all Hanafi. Yeah. Okay. In future, just ask questions at the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Now the next section which we are going to look at is also a section which you can find in your Talimul Haq, in your Behshti Zawal. But it's sometimes it's quite difficult to understand, and a lot of people, they get mixed up with it and so on. So therefore, in the today's lesson, I'm just going to very briefly look at each section very quickly. Now the next section which we're going to look at, again with regards to namaz, is with regards to the disliked and prohibited times of namaz. Now when it is, or when is it considered makruh tahrimi and haram to read namaz, and when is it considered not severely disliked and not haram to read namaz. Now the first masla is, as all of you know, that to read namaz when the sun is rising, tulu shams, when the sun is rising, or at istiwa shams, when the sun is at its stationary point, or when the sun is at its central point. And number 3, at ghurub shams, when the sun is setting. To read any types of namaz is haram during those 3 times. Okay, whether it's your normal namazis like your fajr you wanted to read or you missed it or something like that, or whether it's qaza namaz or any types of namaz, nafil namaz and so on, it is considered haram, it is considered unlawful to read it at those three particular times. Okay. Now we're just going to look at this particular issue in more detail. Tulu Shams means the rising of the sun. Okay. Now it takes approximately 10 to 15 minutes, or 10 to 12 minutes to be exact, but just to be on the safe side, 10 to 15 minutes for the sun to rise. So just say for example, like today in the calendar it said that sunrise at 5:40. So from 5:40 to 5:55 a.m., that 15 minutes, it is considered unlawful and haram to read any types of namaz and any types of salah. So just say if a person, he woke up late for his fajr, and by the time he did wuzu and so on, he goes to his room and he looks at his watch and it's 5:40. Okay, so in that situation, it will be haram for him to read his fajr namaz. What we will have to do is that he will have to wait 15 minutes until 5:55, and then after that he will read the qaza of fajr. Okay, or just for example, if he wants to do qaza at that time, then he won't be able to do qaza of any namazis. It doesn't have to be fajr, it could be any namaz like zuhur, whatever. He won't be able to do it in that 15 minute period. He will have to wait until 5:55 a.m. and then after that he will have to read his zuhur namaz. So that is the first masla. The second masla is that when the sun is at its stationary point. Now this word, or this is called in Arabic, istiwa'u shams. Okay. Now there are two words which are used here. One is called istiwa'u shams, another one is called zawal. And a lot of people, they make a mistake here. And they say that it is haram to read namaz at zawal time. But that is incorrect. At zawal time, you can read namaz. Because I'll come back to that, what does zawal mean. At zawal time, you can read namaz. It's only haram to read namaz when the sun is at its stationary point. Meaning that when the sun has reached its central point, its zenith is called, and it's there for a few minutes or so, then that particular time it is considered haram and unlawful to read namaz. Now, as I said, many people, they get mixed up with the terminology here. Zawal, basically, those of you who know Arabic, zawal is a root word, it's a masdar, and from there the verb zala yazulu is derived, which means hatna. Hatna means that it's declined, it's moved. So when we say zawal, it means that the sun has moved from its stationary point. Okay? And at zawal time, that's when your zuhr namaz starts. If you look in the books of fiqh like Talimul Haq and Beshti Zawad, it'll tell you that when the zuhr starts, it starts after zawal. So after zawal means that when the sun has moved from its stationary point, when the sun has moved from its zenith, then that's when your zuhr time starts. So from this we can understand that at zawal time, zawal is not a prohibited time. Istiwa'u shams, when the sun is at its central point, then that is when it is haram and prohibited to read any sort or any types of namaz. Okay? Now, how would you calculate this istiwa'u shams? How would you calculate the central point of istiwa'u shams? It's very simple. The time from sunrise to sunset, half of that is istiwa'u shams. Half of that is the stationary point, half of that is the zenith. And at that time, it is considered unlawful and haram to read namaz. So I'll just give you an example. That just say at 5 a.m. in the morning, that is sunrise. 5 a.m. in the morning is sunrise. And 9 p.m. in the evening is sunset. So that equals to around 16 hours. So half of that, i.e. 5, if you add 8, so 5 add 8 equals to 1 p.m. So at 1 p.m., okay, that is the stationary time. That is when the sun is at its stationary point, and at that time, at 1 p.m., that is when it is haram and unlawful for a person to read namaz. Okay. Now, some scholars have said that obviously this station, when the sun is at its stationary point, it's only for a few minutes. And sometimes it's quite difficult to determine exactly when is this stationary time. So therefore, scholars such as Maulana Yusuf Ludhiani rahmatullah alayhi in his Aapke Masail Unke Hal has written that 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, so basically like a 10-minute period, it is unlawful and haram to read namaz. So just say, for example, if the zenith or the stationary point is at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, so from 12:55 p.m. all the way until 1:05, then that is the istiwa shams time. That is the time when it is haram and unlawful to read namaz. Okay. So that is the second ruling with regards to its stationary point, that when the sun is stationary, when it has reached its central point, when it has reached its zenith, then to read any forms or any types of namaz is unlawful and haram. And thirdly, it is unlawful and haram to read namaz when the sun is setting. Now when the sun is setting, in Arabic is given the name of Isfiraru Shams, meaning that when the sun has set it and the color of the sun has changed, meaning that the sun has gone pale, even to the extent that you can look at the sun with the naked eye. Now again, that is approximately 20 minutes before sunset time. So just say, for example, in the mosque calendar, you may say 8:55 is sunset. So from 8:35, then that is Isfiraru Shams, that is when the disliked and the makruh tahrimi time starts. So for that 20-minute period, it is impermissible for a person to read namazis, any namazis at all, whether it's like qaza namaz, whether it's like nafil namaz and so on. That 20 minutes before sunset, it is considered makruh tahrimi and severely disliked. There is an exception, and the exception is that if that person had missed his asr namaz that day, meaning like he was traveling, he was busy and so on, or something happened and he couldn't read his asr namaz before that. So in that situation, just say he remembered at 8:40 in the evening that I haven't read my asr namaz, or he was traveling and so on, and he got home at 8:40, then in that situation, that person can read his asr namaz. So that is the only exception. But besides that, when the sun gets pale, when the sun is descending and it's getting pale, the color has changed, even to the extent that you can look at the sun with the naked eye. From that period, it is makruh tahrimi, impermissible for a person to read any types of namaz, qaza namaz or anything like that, sajda tilawah or anything, with the exception of asr salah, and that is that during that time, if he hadn't read his asr namaz on that particular day, he can read it at that particular time. The next ruling here, after that, is after you've read your Fajr namaz and after you've read your Asr namaz. In the Hanafi mazhab, in the Hanafi fiqh, it is considered makruh tahrimi, it is considered severely disliked to read any nafil namaz. So after you read your Fajr namaz, just say for example at 5 o'clock or whenever, then after that for you to sit in the mosque or just say at home to go home and read optional prayers, then that is considered severely disliked and that is considered makruh tahrimi. Similarly, after you've read your Asr namaz, all the way until the Maghrib namaz, to read any optional prayer is makruh tahrimi and severely disliked. So you read your Asr namaz at 7:10, then after 7:10 for you to read any nafil prayers, any optional prayers, then that is considered makruh tahrimi and severely disliked. However, after you've read your Asr namaz, or after you read your Fajr namaz, if you read or if you want to read qaza namaz, or if you want to do sajda tilawah, or just say for example a funeral has come, a janaza has come, and you read the janaza namaz, then those types of namazes will be allowed and will be permissible. So the detestability is only with regards to optional prayers. After Fajr namaz, after Asr namaz, to read any optional prayers, then that is makruh tahrimi, that is severely disliked. However, after that to read qaza namaz, to read janaza namaz, to do sajda tilawah, like for example you recited a verse from the Holy Quran which has made sajda to prostrate obligatory and wajib, then you can do that after Fajr namaz and after Asr namaz. Okay, however, to read any optional prayers, then that is considered severely disliked and makruh tahlimi. Another mas'ala number 3 here is, again, this is another ruling which is mentioned in the books, but very few know about it. And that is that in the Fajr time, when Fajr namaz starts, when Subh Sadiq, like when Fajr time starts, then besides the 2 rakat sunnat of Fajr, it is makruh tahlimi, i.e. in the Hanafi fiqh, it is considered severely disliked to read any other optional prayer. So just for example, Fajr started at 4 a.m. in the morning. So during that 2 hours or 1 hour 40 minutes or so, which is the total time of Fajr namaz, you can only read the 2 rakat of Fajr sunnat. i.e. the Fajr namaz, before that you read 2 rakat sunnat muakkada, you can only read that. Besides that, to read any other optional prayer, then that is considered makruh tahlimi, and that is considered severely disliked. Meaning that the only namaz you can read during that particular time is the optional prayer, is the sunnat of Fajr. However, to read any other optional prayer, then that is considered makruh tahlimi. However, if a person wants, then he can read qaza namaz during that time, similar to after Fajr namaz and after Asr namaz. If he wants to read qaza namaz, or if a janazah happens to come at that time, then he can read the janazah namaz and so on. However, to read optional prayers during the Fajr time besides the 2 rakat sunnat muakkada of Fajr, then that is considered makruh tahlimi, and that is considered severely disliked. Another mas'ala number 4, is after the Maghrib azan, before the Maghrib salah. In the Hanafi books such as Nur al-Izzah and Imam Quduri rahmatullah alayhi, Mukhtasar al-Quduri, it is mentioned that it is makruh tahlimi and severely disliked for a person to read optional prayers or a person to read nafil prayers. So just say, for example, the Maghrib azan happened at 8:50 in the evening. Then after the Maghrib azan has taken place, before the Imam starts the Maghrib congregation, the Maghrib Farz namaz, to read an optional prayer or to read optional prayers, then that is considered makruh tahlimi, and this view can be found in Hanafi books such as Mukhtasar al-Quduri and Nur al-Izzah. Now, with regards to this particular mas'ala, there is in need of some clarification, because those of you who've been for Umrah or who've been for Hajj would know that in the Haram or in Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the azan takes place, they give you an opportunity, or there's like a 2-3 minute gap before they start the Maghrib Jamaat or the Maghrib congregation. And you probably seen at that time that many people, they stand up, they read 2 rakat nafil prayers, and by the time they finish their 2 rakat nafil prayers, the Imam would stand up and he will lead the people in the Maghrib Jamaat. Now, the hadith which can be found in Sunan al-Tirmidhi is that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kullu bayna kulli azanaini salatun liman sha'a." That between every 2 azan there is a namaz, liman sha'a, for that person who wants. So bayna kulli azanaini salatun liman sha'a. Now, what do you mean by 2 azan? It means that between the azan and the iqama, between the azan, when the muazzin does the azan, and before the muazzin or someone does the iqama and the imam starts his namaz, there is a namaz. Salatun liman sha'a, for that person who wants. Now, keeping this particular hadith in mind, Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayh have said that it is mustahab and it is desirable to read 2 rakat nafil and optional prayer before you start your Maghrib namaz. So after the azan takes place, then to read a 2 rakat optional prayer or 2 rakat nafil prayer before you start your Maghrib namaz is mustahab and desirable. Whereas Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh and Imam Malik rahmatullah alayh have said that it is makruh tahlimi and it is severely disliked for a person to read any optional prayer before the Maghrib namaz. Now, the great contemporary scholar Mufti Taqi Usmani, in his Dars Tirmizi, which is a commentary of Sunan Tirmizi, has written that the Hanafi viewpoint or the Hanafi ruling with regards to this particular issue or masla is quite weak, meaning that the evidences which the Hanafi school of thought have brought forward to show that to read 2 rak'ah optional prayer before Maghrib namaz is makruh tahrimi, it's quite weak. Even to the extent that some Hanafi scholars like Sheikh Ibn Humam rahmatullah alayhi, who's written a commentary of Al-Hidayah, has said that it is actually permissible and a person will get rewarded if a person reads optional prayer before Maghrib namaz. Now the conclusion of this particular issue or masla is, and this is like the Hanafi kind of viewpoint from the contemporary scholars, is that if you are in such a mosque where they are giving you the opportunity to read that namaz, or you're in a mosque where the situation is that there is going to be a gap between the Maghrib Azan and the Maghrib congregation, then it is mustahab for a Hanafi to read that namaz. Okay? What do I mean by that? Like for example, just say, this is practiced in many Ahli Hadith mosques. So just say for example, you've gone to Green Lane and after the Maghrib Azan, there's like a gap, 2-3 minute gap, and then they're going to start the Maghrib namaz. So instead of you just sitting in the mosque and playing with thumbs or playing with your mobile phone, what you do is that you just get up and you just pray the 2 rakat optional prayer, and inshallah you will get reward for that. Or just say for example, like in Ramadan, what happens in many masajid, that they do the Maghrib Azan and everyone's eating their kebabs and samosas and so on. So just say for example, like you've come to the mosque and everyone's still having the iftar and the Maghrib prayer hasn't started yet, then instead of you just like wandering around the mosque area or just going here and there, you can just come to the mosque and read 2 rakat optional prayer and it will be permissible. So the conclusion is that in a mosque or in a situation where there is a gap or there is a kind of opportunity for you to read this optional prayer, then you should take this opportunity and read the optional prayer, and it will not be considered makruh tahrimi for you to read that particular prayer. Just one final masla before we conclude for today, which also comes under timings of namaz and so on, is with regards to the combination of namaz. Now whether it is permissible in the Hanafi fiqh to combine 2 prayers or not. Now this is a very long issue, but I'll just be very brief with it. All the schools of thought are unanimous that without any excuse, bila uzr, without any excuse, to combine 2 prayers is considered impermissible. That basically it's impermissible, it's not permissible for a person to combine 2 prayers without any reason. So just say for example, like you read your Zuhr namaz and you're not traveling, you're not ill, you got no problems whatsoever, and then for you straight away to read your Asr namaz in the Zuhr time, then that is considered impermissible and that is not allowed. And even all the ulamas, all the scholars agree, Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, they all agree that to do that is it's a great sin and such a person's salah will not be accepted. The second angle is if there is an excuse that a person is traveling or a person is ill, then would he be allowed to combine 2 salahs? Would he be allowed to combine 2 prayers? Person, he's ready Zuhr namaz, he's traveling, so would he be allowed to read Asr namaz during Zuhr time? Or a person, he's ill, would he be allowed to combine 2 prayers during one namaz time? Now with regards to that, Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayh have said that if it is raining and if a person is traveling. So just say for example, you read your Zuhr namaz, you've managed to come to the mosque and you've read your Zuhr namaz and it's raining outside, heavy raining, and obviously the forecast is that it's going to be raining the whole day, so it's going to be difficult for you to come for your Asr namaz. So what you do is that you just combine your prayer, and that is allowed in the mazhab of Imam Shafi and Imam Malik. And Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayh has said that also illness or marad that is also an excuse. Meaning that if a person, if he's read his Zuhr Salah and he's managed to come to the mosque, he's really ill, and he just managed to read his Zuhr Namaz, and he's feeling a bit better now. So for him to read his Asr Namaz during Zuhr time, then that will be permissible according to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayh. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh on the other hand has said that even if you got excuse, it is still impermissible to combine your prayers. Even though it may be raining outside, it may be a flood outside, even though you may be traveling, you may be going to the moon, whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay? It is still impermissible for a person to combine his prayers. Okay? It is impermissible for a person to be reading his Zuhr Namaz and his Asr Namaz in one time. Or to read Maghrib and Isha during Maghrib time or Isha time, whatever, then that is considered impermissible and not allowed. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi has said that there are only two occasions where you are allowed to combine your prayers. And those of you who've been for Hajj will know that that is during the day of Arafah, the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, where if certain conditions, certain guidelines are met, then you can combine your Zuhr and Asr prayer during Zuhr time. That if you are reading in Masjid al-Namira and if you are reading behind the Imam of Hajj, then you can combine your Zuhr and Asr prayer. However, if you are reading your Zuhr in the tent, then you won't be allowed to combine your Zuhr and Asr prayer. And the second occasion is in Muzdalifah, again on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah in the evening, where you will read your Maghrib and Isha in the Isha time. Even though you may have reached Muzdalifah before the Isha time has started, but you will have to wait until Isha time comes, then you will read your Maghrib and Isha during the Isha time. So these are the two occasions where Imam Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi has said that it is permissible to combine your prayers. Now what I'll do, I'll just leave it for this week here. Inshallah next week I'll begin with the proofs. What does Imam Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi say with regards to this particular issue. And that's one of the tawfiq to action has been said. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillah.